This video is about the difference between active and passive sentences in English and Latin, and how to spot passive verbs in the present, future and imperfect tenses. An active sentence is when we have a subject, a verb, often an object, but it's where the subject actually does the verb. So in my active sentence, the teacher is doing the seeing. In the passive sentence, that changes. The teacher is seen by the pig. The teacher is still the subject, he's first in the sentence, but this time something is happening to him. So rather than doing it himself, something is happening to him. If we look at those sentences in Latin, they become this. So the teacher sees the pig, the teacher is the subject, sees is the verb, and then the pig is the object at the end. The teacher sees the pig, magister porcum vide, subject, object, verb. When we have the teacher being seen by the pig, well, we still have the same word for teacher because the teacher is still the subject, magister. But this time, my verb has become passive instead. So I have is seen by the pig, and that becomes videtur. It's worth noting at this point, and it is very important because we're going to see it later on, that we do have this word by. And by is a or ab in Latin. And that's going to be important. It's a good way of spotting whether a sentence is a passive sentence or not. Let's have a look at how you actually make a passive verb. Now we've met so far, our active verbs have o, s, t, mus, tis, und at the ending. I, you, he, we, you, they. So, amabunt, nt, they will love. Audie bas, s on the end, you were hearing. Vide mus, with mus on the end, we see. If I change the nt from its active to its passive, instead of amabunt, I get amabuntur. I keep the same tense, they will, but this time something's going to happen to the subject. So they will be loved. And it's worth noting that use of the verb to be in the passive verb. Also, and it's not always true because English is a funny language, but we often have the ed ending on the end of the verb. So they will be loved. Audie bas is active, s. If I make it passive, it should be audie baris. So you were hearing becomes you were being heard. Again, I have part of the verb to be, and I've got what should be an ed at the end. Often in English we don't actually say you were being heard, and we'll just say you were heard instead. In the same way as we very rarely say you were hearing, we just say you heard. It is important that we spot the difference between hearing and heard. You were hearing, you're doing that, that's active. You were heard, that's happening to you, and that's passive. Finally, videmus, we see. If we make it videmer, it becomes we are seen. And here English is playing games because instead of having ed, we have en instead. It would be nice to say we are seed, but sadly incorrect. Finally, with passive sentences, let's come back to that a or ab idea. It's really important to look out for that are or ab because it's such a good clue to whether you have an active or a passive sentence. Look at my subjects. Milites, they're both subjects. Milites oppidum oppugnabant, subject, object, verb. The soldiers attacked the town. You'll notice I've used attacked instead of were attacking. The soldiers attacked the town. In my second sentence, I have ab hostibus, by the enemy. And I can't miss that out when I translate it. I have to have by the enemy in my English sentence. And the only way I can do that is by translating a passive verb. The soldiers were attacked by the enemy. So if you take notice of the ab and you spot it and you translate it, it will actually help you to find the passive verb.